Welcome to What I'm Reading, What I'm Thinking, where I share the research behind my upcoming book and how it's shaping the way I think about fascia, structure, and movement. Let's dive in. 2 questions. Do we sense less when we have more tension? Does sensory perception become limited with increased muscle contraction? Across multiple studies, there's growing evidence that muscle contraction and tension can modulate or even limit how we perceive sensory input. A standout study titled Movement Restriction Does Not Modulate Sensory and Perceptual Effects of Exercise-Induced Arm Pain found that exercise-induced muscle pain led to reduced tactile acuity, mechanical hypoesthesia, and pressure hyperalgesia. In short, people sensed less when their muscles were contracted and in pain. That's a pretty direct link between muscle state and sensory perception. Another compelling study, Effect of Muscle Contraction Strength on Gating of Somatosensory Magnetic Fields, showed that the strength of muscle contraction altered how the brain processed somatosensory input. This tells us that the more force we produce, the more it changes what we feel and how we process it at a neural level. Then there's the research titled The Combined Effect of Muscle Contraction History and Motor Commands on Human Position Sense, which found that muscle contraction alters joint position sense. That means our internal GPS might get skewed depending on how hard our muscles are working. On a cortical level, cortical spinal excitability changes during muscle relaxation and contraction in motor imagery revealed that even imagined contraction modulates excitability, suggesting a dynamic link between motor control and perception. Meanwhile, a study called Sensory Thresholds and Peripheral Nerve Response in Chronic Tension Type Headache and Neuropsychological Correlation found that individuals with chronic tension type headaches, often accompanied by elevated muscle tension, had altered sensory thresholds and nerve responses. This strengthens the case that chronic muscular tension influences how we sense the world. Another related piece from Acute and Chronic Adaptations of Muscle Proprioceptors in Response to Increased Use highlights that proprioceptors adapt over time, further hinting at the plasticity of our sensory systems in response to contraction and use. Lastly, the paper, Have We Looked in the Wrong Direction for More Than 100 Years? Proposes that neuromicro damage, not muscle damage, causes DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. If that's true, the sensory effects we associate with sore muscles might be more about nervous system disruption than muscular strain. So what's the takeaway? The evidence points towards a strong relationship between muscle tension, muscle contraction, and altered sensory perception. When muscles contract harder or remain chronically tight, they don't just affect movement mechanics, they actually change how the nervous system receives and processes sensory information. This has a few big implications. First, muscle tension can create a kind of sensory numbing or distortion. Tactile acuity can decline, joint position sense can drift, and pressure sensitivity can shift. In practical terms, when someone is chronically tense, whether from stress, injury, overtraining, or even subtle postural habits, they may not feel their body clearly or accurately. They might have to rely on visual feedback or gross motor effort because their fine internal feedback system, what some call the sixth sense of proprioception, is dulled. Second, this dampening of sensation may contribute to a vicious cycle. If someone can't accurately sense their own position, movement, or internal signals, they're more likely to compensate poorly. They might overgrip, overstabilize, or adopt inefficient patterns, all of which can increase tension even further, setting the stage for chronic pain, joint wear, and movement dysfunction. Third, releasing tension isn't just about relaxing muscles, it's about reawakening sensory systems. This is why so many people report feeling lighter, more present, or more connected after effective bodywork, stretching, or mindful movement. It's not just mechanical, it's neurological. They're literally reintegrating parts of themselves that had been muted by tension. And when we layer this onto the broader themes of my upcoming book, it fits beautifully. Just like fluid dynamics in the body are influenced by pressure and structure, so too are our sensory dynamics. Tension can block not just movement of tissue and fluid, but also the movement of information, the brain's ability to sense, respond, and regulate. Bottom line, tension doesn't just tighten the body, it fogs the brain's map of the body. Reducing tension clears that map, sharpens sensory feedback, and restores a more fluid, adaptive, and intelligent relationship between structure and sensation. That's it for today's dive into the research. If you're enjoying this process and want to see how all these ideas come together, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for the next one. There's a lot more coming.